schools, colleges, nurseries all to close their gates tomorrow in an attempt to curb the spread of coronavirus, which the government says is spreading faster than anticipated. We can ask now all the questions that were raised from that massive decision to straight directly to the Education Secretary Gavin Williamson, who joins us now live from Westminster. A very good morning to you. Thank you so much for being on the programme. Many questions, as you know, were raised, as many as were answered. There are, of course, wider questions and debates to be had about when the school closure happened and why, and was it too late? But I think this morning our viewers really want some clarity. So can we kick off with key workers? Many are tweeting in saying, yes, you've said that some schools will stay open to try and provide education for the children of key workers. People are confused this morning as to whether they fall into that category. Can you clear that up for us?
Of course. I mean, key workers, a lot of people are talking about those amazing doctors and nurses who are very much the front line of combating this virus. But obviously a hospital doesn't just function on doctors and nurses. There's the support staff that help to make sure that it works. So those are the people who'll be included, whether it's teachers and social workers who are absolutely key to ensuring that those key workers are able to who have children are able to get there. But it will also be much more broader than that. It will be looking at the areas of the economy that are absolutely critical to sustain. So whether that is in terms of distribution drivers, in terms of getting goods to shops for us to be able to sustain ourselves, or that critical national infrastructure such as electricity and gas, making sure that continues to function safely.
So should parents this morning who fall into any of those categories today and tomorrow be speaking to their head teacher and saying, listen, I don't know if you know, but this is my job. On Monday, my child needs to come back into school, please. And do the schools then are obligated to stay open?
So we'll be issuing a full and detailed list from the Cabinet Office later on today as to all those categories of key workers. But if your job isn't included in that list, you shouldn't be looking at bringing your child to school. Obviously, those lists will be shared with all schools, but you won't be able to be in a position where you can drop that child off at the school.
Will this full list be on the government website? Will it? And I know lots of media will cover it, but the full list will be on the government website.
The full detailed list will be on the government website, and I imagine, and this is a guess, but I imagine it'll get pretty extensive coverage in terms of the media.
Certainly will. Elizabeth KTK says, what about special schools? Are we staying open because all of our children are high risk and vulnerable? Or are we closing because all our children are high risk and and vulnerable? So angry, they've once again been ignored by this government.
We're certainly not being ignored, and what we're doing is working with our regional school commissioners and the local education authorities, because there will be a number of special schools that, especially some of those special residential schools where some children have very high needs, to make sure that they have the support that's required, because obviously those schools are going to be impacted by this virus as every other school. So those teachers and support workers within those schools, and how we ensure that those schools have the backfilling and support as and if they're needing to stay open. But I do accept that there will be a large number of pupils who have children attending those schools who will equally make the decision that they will want their child at home.
Oh, I see. But the provision will remain open, because Addy Young 7 says, as a head teacher of a large special school, 380 pupils, 290 staff, where is the support, protection and logistical consideration for our environment? Our families need our help, but my staff have families too. Am I, and could you answer this directly, she asks, am I realistically expected to provide for 380 children in our special school on Monday morning?
Yeah. I think what we'd be expecting is that there'll be a large number of those pupils that probably won't be attending that school because of the decisions of parents, but we do recognise that we are going to have to backfill in support of a number of those special schools, because where those children aren't going to, where they are going to continue to attend, the school is going to be affected by its own staff that are self-isolating, and how we're ensuring that we get the resources into those schools to remain open, even if it is at a reduced level.
Gavin Gavin Williamson, I think the most popular question a lot of people are confused about, actually, and want real clarity on this, is the exams. So the A-level exams and GCSE exams, which are the most crucial ones for people at school, have they been cancelled outright, so there will be no exams, or are they postponed? And either way, what happens next? So how are they going to be assessed when it comes to their next stage, which will be A-levels, or indeed university places?
So exams aren't going to be taking place in this academic year, and we're going to be doing everything we can to ensure that people will receive their GCSE and A-level grades in August, as they would usually do. That isn't without its challenges, and I should add a caveat: none of us know how this pandemic and virus is going to spread, and obviously the awarding bodies and Ofqual will face challenges in terms of staff illness and loss in terms of staff self-isolating as well. But that's what we're going to be aiming to do. We're going to be bringing out much more details tomorrow. We've already had discussions with Universities UK, Ofqual, some of the teachers unions and head teachers unions in terms of what we're doing. We are working. It
sounds like you haven't quite come to a decision then, which I think is probably... Susanna Reid, as you know, is in self-isolation. Yes. Susanna, Gavin Williamson's listing, I mean, it doesn't sound like there's much clarity this morning for you and your kids and others.
Good morning, Mr. Williamson. It's good to see you on the programme, and I know it's obviously a very difficult decision to make to close the schools, and it has huge fallout for so many people, for students, for parents who obviously now need to take time off work in order to look after their children, key workers, and I know you're trying to define who those workers might be. It was a massive issue when you said that we're going to cancel GCSEs and A-levels. And I think to announce that, but then for all those hundreds of thousands of students who are affected, not to know what that will mean is a bit of a headache for them when they've been working towards those exams. I know you're going to bring out more detail, but is your feeling that those qualifications will now not be judged by exams, that exams won't be held at all this year for those two cohorts? Will the qualifications be awarded on predicted grades? Might they be awarded on mock exam results or on coursework?
Well, we have got a clear outline of what we're doing, and that's why we're taking the opportunity to speak with some of those organisations that are going to be responsible for delivery on this, and will have a big input in terms of how we deliver it. We're not cancelling GCSEs or A-levels, just to be absolutely clear, but exams aren't going to be taking place. We'll bring out the detail tomorrow, but we need to give some of those organisations the opportunity to highlight if there's any unintended consequences as a result of our plans. But also, I've got to be absolutely honest with you here. Any sort of route that we go down is not as good as having a proper set of exams. That's why we do it as we do it every single year. This isn't something that any education secretary would want to be making the decision on. But what's going to be really important is that when children, whether it's GCSEs or A-levels, receive their grades, there's a proper appeals process that they have to be able to refer back to. But secondly, and importantly, there's an ability to redress it if they feel as if that is just not simply a proper reflection of the work and the study that they've done. And I completely understand the worry and the concern that people have. And this is, we're working also with Scottish, Welsh and Northern Irish governments as well, in order to make sure that we have a best, most considered approach to this, and hopefully one that works across all four nations as well.
And just to clarify, Mr. Williamson, when are you going to explain to the GCSE and A-level students how their qualifications will be awarded?
The details of that will be coming out tomorrow.
All right, okay.
Thank you so much, Gavin.